Hello, awesome people. I hope you're having a great day today. Today we're taking a look at the second book in the Eternal Champion collection, which is the first book that was published by Borelius, which I'll link you to in the comments below in the Eternal Champion series for you folks. It's a science fiction novel called The Sundered Worlds. For you folks, I read this novel initially when I was in high school and doing a deep dive into Michael Moorcock after he became my favorite writer from R.A. Salvatore. And I read his Dorian Hawkmoon quadrilogy, loved it, and then did a deep dive into his fantasy stuff, including the Elric stuff, and including this series and so forth. This book, it's about 160 pages long, and normally I've been blowing through those in 3 days with about an hour and 12 minutes each day, or an hour and 15 minutes or something like that. Even though this is an oversized collection. But this time, it took me 4 days. The first 25 pages was a lot slower, and it took me about an hour. And so I finished on Friday. Saturday, knocked out 50 pages in about an hour and a half. Last night, Sunday night rather, I also did the same. About an hour and a half, much slower than my normal reading pace of this stuff. And then last night, I finished the last 196 pages in about 45 minutes or 50 minutes or something like that, much longer than you would have normally expected. So it was a slower read, but you could still knock it out in an hour a day at a pretty quick clip. It would just take you a little bit longer because I felt like it was a slower book. It took me a while to get back into it and pick up things, but it was fine. I enjoyed it, knocked it out in 4 days for a second reread for you folks, the first time in high school. And I remembered here and there, I barely remembered it, but once I started going back and rereading it, I was reminded of some of the fun stuff and stuff. A lot of fun stuff happens in here, but it's not this epic work or anything like that, or have anything fun to say. And there's a lot of description and plot and so forth. For example, in the first 3 chapters, our key character, Rennick von Beck, and his 2 friends are setting out for the Sundered Worlds. It's a section of space that is separate and phases in and out in the multiverse from those people. And there is a small collection of people that have grown up in a nearby planet for folks that are for like refugees and criminals and the scum of the universe that go and live and settle and get ready to go to the Sundered Worlds. And so as soon as they appear in our universe, they'll lift off and then try to arrive. And Rennick von Beck has arrived at that place with his 2 friends, and he's going to the Sundered Worlds. And we find out in the first chapter that he has a dark region. He used to be a big person in the universe's galactic administration. And he found out some information, and then he didn't tell the people because he didn't think that they'd be able to take him. And they asked him to stay, but he chose not to. So he's on a quest now. And we'll find out in chapter 3 that what he found out is that our universe that used to be expanding has stopped expanding and is now shrinking. And it's shrinking at a massive pace that will put people out of business after a short period of time. He comes across some refugees from another nearby galaxy to the Milky Way that lost their homes and are relocating to his region that he controlled of space on the realm. So that's where that horror comes from. So he's going to the Sundered Worlds to find out information about what's happening and so forth. They go over there, and then after they arrive in the Sundered Worlds as fast as possible, they're the first ship through because he's psychic and he could tell that was happening. So he got his ship off the ground and so forth before the police that were nearby could stop him. But then he arrives in the Sundered Worlds, and they are attacked by a group of people. A group of hostile aliens that are there, and then they're rescued by a group of humans, and then he arrives on the human planet. And we'll begin to ask a lot of questions. There's a lot of talking in this. For example, on that planet, he's going to ask questions on that planet, and then he's going to get sent to another planet in the system, in the Sundered Worlds, and then he will ask questions of that person, and then that person will send him to another place in the area. Then he'll go to that place, ask a lot of questions, and find out more about the world and so forth. It's a lot of searching and questing and moving from place to place to place, and lots of conversations about what's happening and what the setup is and why the universe has stopped expanding, why it's collapsing, what has to happen now in order to save it, right? And so there's a lot of that back and forth conversations and so forth. Not a lot of fighting, although there are a few shots in here in order to spice things up. So I really feel that even though this is well written and I like the ending, and I think it's fun and clever in some dark ways, it definitely feels more like a 7 out of 10 rather than some of the previous ones that were more like 8s and so forth for you folks. But that's my thoughts. Spoiler free, because I only gave you the first couple of chapters on it, of The Sundered Worlds, the second novel in this collection by Michael Moorcock. Now, this is in the Eternal Champion collection, and it is in the Eternal Champion series, even though it's a sci-fi. The main character, Rennick, fallen back his name called a couple of times, like, are you Corum yet? Corum's a character, and so that's all. As I call out the fans of the series to say, yes, this guy is an Eternal Champion, even though he is right, and so forth, and will later on begin to feel a little bit of the law versus chaos dynamic that's here on every plane in the multiverse. And the multiverse concept was created here by the by. So if you're reading this in a modern multiverse context and multiversal wars and so forth, are all here is where it started from. And even the word was created by Michael Moorcock too, in addition to creating that sort of a concept. So the more multiverse, that's a key concept of modern pop culture and fantasy and science fiction and superhero stuff and so forth. This is where it comes from. So anyway, so this is he is a member of the Law versus Chaos, and the Eternal Champion is an aspect of that character on every plane of existence who fights the good fight for law. For you folks. This guy, like I said, used to be my favorite author until I came across H.P. Lovecraft in college, and then he became my favorite author. And so anyway, but he was my favorite author for a few years in high school, and then a couple of years in college before I started to do a deep dive in H.P. Lovecraft and swapped over. So there you are. That's Michael Moorcock's book, The Sundered Worlds. For you folks, have you read it? If so, what did you think about it? Did you agree with my 7 out of 10? So let's talk about it in the comments below. If not, let's talk about it in the comments below. I'm happy to talk about it. If you want to talk about spoilers or the endings, that sort of thing, let's do that too. As a reminder, the name of this channel, the worst thing about new books, is a quote by a French philosopher named Jacques Joubert, who said that the worst thing about them was that they kept you from reading the new books. And so a novel like this was published decades ago are things that I definitely think are a key part of this channel. So there you are that. If you enjoyed this, why not hit that subscribe button, because there's going to be a lot more of these to follow. And then finally, I want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and investing it and watching my video. We all have so many things that are happening in our lives, and we're pulled in so many different directions. So the fact that you spent this time with me is incredibly humbling, and I appreciate it. So thanks again, and have an amazing day.